Identifying as a mom, daughter, conservative, friend, parental rights activist, Republican Party delegate, lover of freedom, conspiracy theorist, mama bear, and force to be reckoned with, this is Raising Liberty with Lindsey Beckham. Good morning. I am excited to be here on this Friday morning. It feels great outside, getting cooler out there. And we finally have my friend Nick Bain here with us today. And we've been trying to get him here for several weeks, and we've kept having issues, but he's finally here. And just to tell you guys a funny little story. I first met Nick at the Capitol, and I had worked on what we called the library bill, and we were working on databases in school and getting some of the stuff that we had found in school libraries removed that we felt was inappropriate for children. And the bill originally went to the library committee, and at the last minute, they moved the bill from the library committee to the Judd B committee, where Nick was chairman. And so my representative, Jill Ford, said, "Well, I want you to meet Nick. He's right there." And we were running to catch him, and he was busy. He was running into a meeting, and we started to talk about the library stuff. And he he looked at us. He said, "Well, my wife is a librarian." And I was like, "Oh no, here we go." I'm sure he's heard that I burn books and ban books and all those things, which of course we really don't do. But um, he fought so hard for that bill. He argued it on the floor. And so I became a fan of his because he helped get that done. The Senate removed some of the stuff that we wanted in it, but that's neither here nor there. That was the first introduction to Nick. But he has done some really great things as a former state rep, and I am just so excited to have you here with us today, Nick.
Yeah, thank you, Lindsay, for the invite. Thank you for accommodating my schedule. It's always very fluid, so I appreciate the accommodation there, and happy to be here.
Absolutely. So tell us, what are you doing now that you are no longer a House representative?
Yeah, well, I a lawyer by trade. I never quit practicing law, even as during my time in the legislature. The way that's set up, you can kind of do both. So I still practice law, do a tremendous amount of criminal defense, really anything in a small town practice that you can do. Uh, After leaving the legislature, I was hired on by a couple of statewide groups to lobby on their behalf, lobby for uh, healthcare issues, lobby for something near and dear to my heart, criminal justice reform with Empower Mississippi, lobby with them, and some other groups on some other projects, specific project related stuff. So I stay busy at the Capitol still. It's uh, not really.
I think I ran into you more this past session than
Yeah,
sessions before.
I was down there quite a bit. That's why I told my wife, I said nothing's really changed much except for I don't have to argue those cases that people like you send to me that I have to sit up there and take all the slings and arrows for. But I will say that is one of the things that I miss the most about it is the floor and the arguing part and the debate.
Lawyers like that, don't they?
Yeah, yeah, we do. But I think my last 4 years, I told somebody my last 4 years as chairman of Judd B, I handled over 130 bills on the floor.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a big committee.
it is. We would get about right at 400 bills a year, and that doesn't mean we do 400 bills. We out of that 400, we do about uh, 30 or 40 of those that would come
Yeah.
out to the floor from both sides, and then we would just have to argue them in some way, shape, or form. But it was one of the busiest committees, and under Speaker Gunn's leadership, he sent a lot of stuff to those committees.
Yeah, he certainly did. And I love Empower. I love those guys over there. I know Forrest. I know his heart, his passion has been criminal justice reform, and I know that's something that you care deeply about as well. And we both spoke at a luncheon this past
Yeah.
session that Americans for Prosperity was holding, and I heard you speak there for the first time, and I was kind of shocked at some of the statistics that you were giving us on criminal justice reform. So, tell us what's wrong with our system here in Mississippi.
Yeah, I think it's look, the United States of America, what I would argue, the freest country in the world. We incarcerate more people than anywhere in the world. We have the highest incarceration rate in really the known universe. Mississippi incarcerates the most in the United States per capita. So we live in a state where there are more people per capita incarcerated than anywhere else, really, that we know of. So things that I try to do is I really wanted to change a lot of the stigma attached and a lot of the narrative, because here's what a lot of people don't understand: 98% of the people that go into prison are going to get out.
Mhm.
All right, you have your lifers and the people that go in there for life for doing heinous stuff, and I want to make no bones about it. There are people that have to stay in jail. There are people that need to go to jail. There are people that need to be punished. The difference is I always wanted people to find out who are we mad at and who are we afraid of, and that differentiation there was something I wanted to be clear about.
Mhm.
Because those that we're mad at, yeah, we're mad at them. They need to possibly be punished, but they're also going to get out. How can we create ways for them to be successful when they get out? I'll tell you a story of a boy that I represented years ago. He was 18. Um, he got a DUI. They sent him off. And then he ended up through all the procedures. I won't bore you with that. He ended up in prison, adult prison, 18 years old. Never really had any trouble before, but when he went to prison at 18, he really became a criminal at that point. He learned how to be a criminal in jail, and he's now about 32, and he's in prison for other stuff. It always related back to some mental illness or some addictions and drug issues, and I think that's what the majority of our people struggle
Yeah.
with that. So for me, what I wanted to do was to shed some light on those issues. One of the things that my last year there that we passed, I think it was House Bill 1222, which is probably one of the things that I'm most proud of, gave law enforcement the ability to be trained on mental health situations. Um, One of the things I spoke to the state chief of police association years ago, and every one of them said that they didn't talk about they wanted more pay or more officers. They said, teach us how to handle mental health issues because that's what we respond to the most. So I think all that dovetails back into our criminal justice reform, criminal justice issues. You know, it's not being soft on crime or light or a bleeding heart liberal or whatever you want to say. I think it's being smart and trying to help people. That's one of Empire's focus. That's a lot of conservative people.
Mhm.
You spoke for Americans for Prosperity, who I would dare say is a left leaning group. They're not. They're very, very conservative.
Mhm.
We share their ideas, but they believe that giving people the resources to be successful
Rehabilitate.
and rehabilitate is not only a human factor, but it's also a very efficient use of taxpayers' money
Yeah.
and giving people because the less people we have in jail, the less people you and me are paying for.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. That makes the most sense. Like, let's find a way to keep them out of jail so
Right.
that all those tax dollars aren't continuing to support them in jail.
And it has to change the stigma. A lot of people, I mean, people running against me last year, talking about being soft on crime. And some of those people that ran against me now, their loved ones are being benefited by the programs that I helped implement.
Mhm.
It's not it changes when it's you that are directly affected.
Right.
So I want people to understand that uh, the stigma of this is we have to overcome this archaic thinking of let's lock them up and throw away the key. It doesn't work because number one, Mississippi's a poor state. We can't afford keeping people in there, and even if we could, 98% of them still be getting out. We have to provide them with the services they need to be successful so that they don't go back and so that our taxpayers can be used to pay for roads, health care, education,
Mhm.
paying our officers. So that's uh, for me, that's what those issues are about.
Yeah, and there was this big case that just kind of wrapped up, and I would love to kind of hear your opinion on and get some clarification on some things.
Yeah.
So the Carly Gregg case, and she's 14, killed her mother. We know she did it. She was convicted, and they gave her life. So in Mississippi, life is life. It actually means you're there for the rest of your life.
For the most part, yes. There are some situations to where you can get out. I represented a man up in New Albany area. He had went into prison for killing somebody, killing a coworker. Uh, he did it later in life. There are situations, and there's a thing called conditional release that you could come back and petition the court for. It's not parole. You go back before the court, and the court lets you makes that determination on whether or not you get out. But you can't do that till you're 65 years old. So
Yeah.
here she is, 14 or 15. She's there for 50 years, which you know, uh, I probably won't ever see her get to that age. Most of the people who handled her case won't see her get to that age to where she's eligible. Now, the law could change and some things could happen. Used to be prior to the late 90s, life meant 10 years. So laws change.
Mhm.
And so certainly right now, as we sit here, she's in there for life. Could that change? Yes.
So what do they do with someone that young who's being tried as an adult and is given life? Does she go into a adult
Yeah,
prison?
I think she'll stay in juvenile, some type of juvenile custody. Um, I'm not exactly 100% sure but, how they classify her. She'll go to MDOC. They'll classify her, put her in some type of the appropriate stripes, if you will, and put her somewhere. I think she'll stay in some type of juvenile facility till she turns 18, and then go over to the most of the women, if I recall correctly, are still housed out at Rankin County.
Mhm.
So I think that's probably where her future is.
So they attempted in the defense to use the
Monotone.
McNaughton, and that is when you are pleading, I guess, insanity.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a case that where that has worked?
You know, I've represented literally thousands of criminal defendants. It's my primary practice. I've filed dozens of mental evaluations and help with psychological evaluations for people. This past year was really the first one that I've ever had come back saying that they were not competent to stand trial, but he could be restored. Monotone says basically that you had a mental uh, disability, some type of insanity at the time of the crime occurred, and you didn't understand the difference between right and wrong. Um, but there's situations to where you can be restored, you can't be restored, whatever the case may be.
Mhm,
I know she had a lot of evidence regarding the antidepressants, the SSRIs that she was on,
mhm.
and stuff like that, and of course the jury didn't buy that stuff. Um, it's a tough thing. It's a tough in Mississippi to do. Like I said, I filed dozens and dozens of them, and this past year, I've only had was the first time I ever had one come back, and my client was crazy as a Bessie bug, uh, but they still ruled him as incompetent, but he could be restored. So we were able to kind of work through all that there. But in any event, it's used. But I've never personally, as a lawyer, been successful as a defense with it.
In this particular case, they hold a or in these types of cases, they hold a Miller hearing before the
Yeah.
sentencing. So, in this particular case, they had the Miller hearing, but the defense did not put on any witnesses, and so I've heard that there is a chance that because of that, this ruling could be overturned because they don't or at least that part of it. What are your thoughts
And
on
this
that?
may be the Miller versus Alabama came back had to do with juveniles being sentenced. Miller versus Alabama, United States Supreme Court came down had to do with juveniles being sentenced to life without parole, those type of things. They have to certain factors that have to be considered. Um, when I was chairman, we had various Miller bills that came through. I always killed them just because there was some issues with those type of bills, or we had something else we were working on. Just never got around to it.
Mhm,
This past year, the legislature passed a Miller bill. So this may have been, I don't know, it's the first one that I've paid attention to where that law took effect. Took effect July the 1. So her being sentenced, this is the first one that I paid attention to. So to ask your question about what was the defense supposed to do or not do, I saw a little bit of the hearings of the sentencing hearing, and it was just an argument basically from both sides. The
mhm.
defense attorney made an argument. There wasn't any evidence that was put on. Uh, Certainly, is it grounds for appeal? You know, I think somebody will appeal on those along with some other issues. I think Judge Arthur did a very, very good job.
I do too.
Uh, and one of the things that I noticed as a defense attorney, I think he bent over backwards to help the defense,
I
and
do
he
too.
and he let a lot of things in that maybe he shouldn't have, or maybe he should have. I don't know, but he let a lot of things in to take away some of those appealable issues. So I think I'm not an appellate attorney, and certainly not an expert in that, but I think he did a fabulous job, and it's going to be a tough appeal.
Yeah, I agree. I think he handled the whole case really well the entire week. And one thing that was said, and I know we kinda talked about this on Facebook, was that she didn't qualify for a public defender, and I didn't understand that because she's a minor, and you're not supposed to look at what family the how much money her family has, or so I didn't understand why she didn't qualify for a public defender, but you were saying, some of our public defenders are the best we've got.
Yeah, they are. They're typically the most versed in the law because that's all they do. And they typically, one of the things as a lawyer that people don't that people maybe undervalue is not necessarily your ability as a lawyer, but also your ability to uh, make relationships and to grow and foster those relationships with prosecuting attorneys, with judges. Public defenders work with those guys each and every day. They see them each and every day. So they have a great relationship. But for example, I live in North Mississippi. If I were to be hired by a criminal defendant on the coast, I know some prosecutors down there. I don't know them all. I don't really have a relationship with them. I don't go to lunch with them. I don't play golf with them. We don't have that relationship. That's just the nature of it. Those public defenders see them every day. They know them, and so they know their nuances, if you will, and how to sometimes handle those situations. To your question about her being eligible, I don't know anything about that. Every jurisdiction is a little bit different. Like I'm a public defender in Tishomingo County, but I'm a private lawyer. Hines County has a public defender office. There are certain places around the state that have certain public defender office. So every jurisdiction's different, and that causes some concerns and some problems with cases like these and others because there is that lack of uniformity among the districts. For example, um, one big problem is what they call the gap in representation, which was supposed to be fixed with Supreme Court rules. But in the nutshell, how that works is I don't, as a public defender in Tishomingo County, I don't get my client till they are arraigned on felony charges. Well, they may catch the charge and they await the grand jury process. That process could be months, it could be years, but typically months. So from
Mhm.
the time, let's say, he catches a charge in January, he goes before the grand jury in July. Typically, that time he gets arraigned, and then I'll get him in August or September. So, say from January to September, he doesn't have a lawyer. Okay,
Mhm.
so there's that gap in the law. There's not a public defender. There's nobody there that can stand in on their behalf. A lot of times that's problematic because they're in jail and they can't make a bond. Well, I can't get involved as a public defender and ask for their bond to be reduced until they're my client, and that's the
Right.
problem. So they
Yeah.
sit there. Um, some of the other offices like Hines County and some of those they follow them all the way through the process. So when they're charged initially at the misdemeanor court level, uh, they have a public defender and they can get representation all the way through. So those uniformities are issues that always have troubled me, always concern me, and again goes back to what I've said before: a inefficiency among taxpayer dollars.
The need for criminal justice reform.
Because those people are sitting in jail. Who's footing those bills?
Right, we
The
are.
counties, the taxpayers. They're sitting in bills. You got to feed them. You got to take them to the hospital if they need it. You got to clothe them. So that's another issue that I think could be uh, done a lot more efficient.
You said, 1 in how many people are felons, convicted felons, or have had a
If
felony?
I can remember that stat, one in Mississippi, 1 in 13 people in Mississippi have some type of felony conviction or have some type of relationship with a felony court. But 1 in 13 Mississippi.
That wowed me when you said that.
You think about that. There's 3 million people in Mississippi. So do the math on that. Yeah, it's a large amount of people who have somehow had their life impacted by the state. And as As conservatives, we don't like the government uh, getting involved in things. Now, really, if they broke the law, I understand all that. But a lot of times you get a felony on your record, you're done for in terms of being able to get a good job, a good paying job. There's benefits
Right.
that you can't get. You know, some of those cost you to lose your right to vote. You lose your right to bear an arm on any felony. So those have consequences uh, that are just go far beyond just going to jail or going getting probation or paying a fine. So it's an incredible number when people and when I read that for the first time, I think that was put out maybe by AFP, that I think it was 1 in 13 people in Mississippi have some type of felony, uh,
That's so shocking to
conviction.
me. That blew my mind. And I mean, I think that screams that we need to do something differently if that many people are
Yeah,
being arrested or charged with a felony.
yeah,
I know one thing that you worked on and that I know Mississippi is so glad that you did, or at least the people that live in Jackson, in the CCID, was that bill that was that no,
yeah.
that was a doozy when that was argued on the floor.
Yeah,
Tell us how that bill came about and how that worked through the legislative session that
yeah,
year.
I was, there's a whole genesis to that, back I think it was maybe in the fall of 2022, maybe, I had a hearing on Jackson crime. And in that hearing, I wanted to hear what Jackson officials were doing about crime in the city of Jackson. We had a 2-day hearing, and I came down. My secretary at the time, she confirmed that both the Jackson police chief, whose name escapes me, he's not the chief now, but the one before, and the mayor, Mayor Lumumba, would be there. And then late the day before, within about 5 o'clock, we got called that the mayor wasn't coming, the chief wasn't coming either. Well, that kind of ticked me off because here I am. I've got 30 House members who have taken time out of their day to come here, and that's our job. We do that, but we've scheduled this. We've had it scheduled for months. I've got people flying in from Washington D.C. I got people coming to talk about this, and the mayor on the at the 11th hour canceled on me. So I issued a subpoena for him to show up and subpoenaed the mayor of Jackson to do so. And I gave him the benefit of the doubt. He said he was sick, so I just rescheduled his hearing for a later time. And even then, I got a little bit of consternation from him from not showing up. But eventually, he honored the subpoena. I never released him from it. wasn't going to,
Mhm.
um, just for the sake that I wanted to know, and it was the right. Jackson belongs to the people of Jackson, but it also belongs to the people of Mississippi.
It's our capital.
It is our capital. When people see Mississippi, when people are coming here, they're going to Jackson. They're flying in. It's where the business of the state is done. So I took a little bit of issue with people saying, "Well, you live 4 hours away. You're closer to Illinois than you are to Jackson." True, but I'm also a Mississippian, and Jackson belongs to us, and that became kind of the genesis of expanding the CCID, putting in more resources,
Mhm.
putting in more officers, and giving them the help that they wanted. At the time, you know, during that hearing, and we fleshed that out, JPD didn't have a problem with any of that happening. They wanted to help.
Yeah,
The state was willing to do that, and I think it's paid dividends the last couple of years doing that
absolutely.
inside that district, and has helped to cut down on some of the crime. Um, so yeah, I'm proud of that. I think one of the last speeches I gave on the House floor was about CCID and about the expansion of it, and the whole purpose of it is not to take over the city of Jackson. It's to make citizens of Jackson feel safe and to give the citizens of Mississippi something to be proud of.
Yeah, I think that bill was argued on the floor longer than any other bill that I've seen except for maybe the CRT bill, the critical race theory. That
Yeah,
one went
yeah,
on for forever and ever as well. But you did a fabulous job with that, and I know the citizens that live within the CCID are very thankful for the work that you did on that because I know they feel a lot safer. And even at the Capitol,
yeah.
it's just you feel a lot safer today than you did before that was implemented.
You
So,
do, and the Department of Public Safety, Sean Tyndall, Bo Lucky, and those guys have done a good job implementing
mhm,
those and keeping people safe, which is, I believe, one of the core fundamental um, roles of government is, I believe it is arguably number one, to keep it's government's job to keep its citizens safe. And so, in any event, I'm glad to see that that's working. I know there's still a lot of places to go, a lot of room to for improvement in the city of Jackson, but it's eating an elephant. And
Yeah, one bite at a time.
mhm.
Exactly. I know one thing that you have, been working on a little bit since leaving the legislature was the ballot initiative. So, tell us what's going on with that.
The ballot initiative, of course, as you know, was overturned. I can't remember what year the Supreme Court overturned our initiative. Uh, my last 3 years in the legislature, I argued the bill every year. So I argued for an initiative. It always passed the House. It always got hung up in the Senate on some nuance with this and that, and like so often legislation just ran out of time and couldn't get it. Uh, I was asked to serve on the ballot initiative board, and we did that. And our sole purpose is to restore an initiative process for the citizens to vote on. I believe the citizens uh, should have some type of initiative process. We've had a lot of things come through that has helped Mississippi, and I believe the citizens should have that. Uh, what that looks like, I don't know. Should it be? I don't want it to turn out like a California or something where they put everything on the ballot and vote for it.
Right.
It should be something a little bit uh, unique. It should be something that that is difficult to attain, but once it's there, the citizens have a right to vote on it because your legislatures and the people that we send to Jackson, they are our voice to do that thing. I can't. You gave a great example when we started this talking about the library bill.
Mhm.
Uh, in all candor, that wasn't even on my radar as a chairman.
Mhm.
It wasn't on my radar as a legislator. My issues, like I said, of criminal defense and some
Right.
other stuff. I didn't even know the stuff that EBSCO was doing and some of these databases and
Yeah.
stuff, all that stuff. I didn't even know that existed was a problem. And
Yeah.
my wife is a high school librarian. So I say all that to say, you being a citizen coming and talking to your legislator, you got something done, or a legislator got something done. That happens all the time. We as a legislator, we don't know everything. We
No, you don't say.
we depend on people to tell us things. So back that up to an initiative. Uh, the absolute easiest way to change a law is to go talk to your legislator and tell them why. But sometimes I realize people can be stubborn. People are sensitive to political wins.
Mhm.
So sometimes an initiative may be the best way to go. But 100% and unequivocally, the people of Mississippi need an initiative process.
I think the last big thing I remember was the medical marijuana, and
Hmm.
I know that was a really, really big deal. There's a lot of arguing about that, and then it seemed in the midst of that, we lost the ballot initiative,
That's correct.
and it was because of, I guess, congressional districts. We had 5 at one point,
Hmm.
and we moved down to 4, and because of the word, was it just wording that
It was semantics, if you will. It was just it was a legal impossibility to do, from the way that I understand the law. Uh, so we just had to change a few words, and we have it back. But like so often, it's caught up into some political issues that happen at the Capitol. Um, I hope and I do think. I mean, I think both sides passed it this last year, but it died in conference. Um, I think that people want an initiative. I think the people want it. Uh, they want to have a some type of direct say in their government outside of just talking to representatives and senators. But again, I think it has to be very carefully drawn so that we don't get to a point to where anybody it makes it easy to get something on the ballot and then you really lose the
Yeah, well, I mean,
legislature.
I can tell you a lot of the concern that I hear is that we've seen some more, liberal states use the initiative, like you were talking about California, and to put things on that ballot initiative that could pass, but wouldn't be good for the state of Mississippi, and I know here in Mississippi, we were the state that eventually overturned Roe.
Correct.
I know that's a big issue for a lot of people is that they think abortion could be put on that ballot and abortion come back to the state of Mississippi.
That's a valid concern, and we had some safeguards. I don't really remember now what those were to prevent outside money coming in to fund those type of things.
Right.
Uh, you can't ever you can't ever actually prevent it, but we had some safeguards like reporting requirements and stuff like that to try to do that. But that's certainly an issue. Another one's Medicaid expansion, getting people, however you feel about that, for it or against it. Groups coming in and funding that. Medicaid expansion. I think there was going to be a big push to put that on the ballot, and then the next day, the Supreme Court came out and ruled the initiative unconstitutional. So yeah, that's a valid concern. That's something that Lieutenant Governor Hoseman has always talked about. These groups coming in.
I think that would
Uh,
be a big deal with, like, our Second Amendment, the gun rights
that's
people.
right.
Think that would be something that those groups would wanna come in and pour money into to attempt to take guns
That's
or
right.
put some red flag laws.
And there are groups all over, as you know, all over this country, both on the right and the left, that have a ton of money to push an agenda.
Yeah.
So it is a concern, but I think it's something that can be um, carefully crafted in legislation to prevent.
And also, you would have to have, what, so many
That's
signatures,
correct.
so much of the population would have to want to have that issue on that ballot initiative.
That's right. So many people would have to, so many electors or people who are registered to vote would have to sign a petition, and then a certain percentage of those would have to approve it. There's a lot of hoops that could be jumped through to prevent that. But again, like back to what I say, I think the people need an initiative, but it needs to be uh, carefully constructed. It needs to be for unique areas of the law or for issues that you know one of the ones we did years ago was to make hunting and fishing a right of Mississippi. Stuff like that, I think, people need to vote on. Whether or not you have an initiative uh, to fully fund schools or something like that. Those are issues that I believe should be left to the legislators.
Mhm.
Okay.
I agree. Um, you have kids,
Hmm.
and you said that your wife's a high school librarian. Tell me what you think about the public school system and what we see happening with education right now.
Yeah, I'm from Northeast Mississippi. I'm from uh, A school districts all around me. People from Corinth High School are going off to Ivy League schools and to the to the military academies every year. I have really great public schools. It was something that when I first elected that I ran on to keep those public schools. I also, in the same vein, understand that that's not the case everywhere in Mississippi, and
Mhm,
that there are failing school districts that are, again, doing a disservice with taxpayers' money by not educating people, and that has a trickle down effect into not educating people. People can't get a job, they turn to crime, they go to prison.
mhm,
So I think uh, and I believe, and I have buffered on this quite a bit in the last decade or so. I do think that there is a role for school choice in Mississippi. I think there's a solid role. When we in 2012, I did not vote for the charter school bill, um, and I have since regretted some of that because I think that there is certainly a limitation with local governments allowing people to go to where they may want to go. Is that taking away from public schools? Maybe to some extent, but also it's the same argument that we make about everything. We're an American capitalistic society,
yeah,
and I do believe in every aspect that we do. Competition makes people better. So
yeah.
if you can bring in competition and not have
Free
such
market works. It works.
such a monopoly on things, ideally, um, all e all a rising tide raises all boats, if you will. So that's sort of where I've come from. I've kinda come the spectrum from being very, very pro public schools. I still am, and I think our public schools, especially where I'm at, are valuable. But as a statesman, you kinda had to look at the whole big picture of things, and I see the need for school choice now in Mississippi.
I do too. I think that, more even more so than that, I think putting the right of the parents. Your parents know their children best, and now they learn the best, and so I think that's really important. And, did your daughter did she graduate? I know she just turned 18. Did she
She's a
graduate?
senior at
She's
Corinth
a
High
senior.
School.
She is beautiful.
Thank you,
I
yeah.
mean, absolutely
Yeah,
stunning. We need her in Miss Mississippi because
well,
she's just
she
gorgeous.
she
So
likes pageants, but,
does she?
she does,
I
and
can see
she's
her on that stage because she just shines, and so I know
thank
you're
you.
so proud of her.
Yeah, she's something. It's hard to believe. 18, she turned 18 yesterday on the 26th of September. Uh,
Both of y'all have September birthdays.
we do, that's right. Uh, but well, thank you so much. Yeah, and that's what our job, all of us, our job is to leave a better place for our kids.
Mhm.
Um, as a legislator, I always try to view things in that filter. One of the things that I struggle with in North Mississippi is the people of my daughter's age are graduating high school or graduating college, go to Tennessee, up to Nashville, and up
Mhm.
those ways. So we're losing a lot of young people.
Right.
So to your point, uh, better schools, better opportunities, and I always try to do things through the filter of how is this making citizens of Mississippi life better? How does this make my kids and their generations better?
It's one of my favorite quotes, Thomas Paine, if there has to be trouble, let it be in my day so that my children may have peace."
That's right.
And, that's what I try to think about with all of the things that I work on. I wanna make sure that I leave this world better for my children than the way that I found it.
Yeah.
Y you ran for reelection and barely,
Yeah.
barely were defeated. A lot of people thought that you would appeal that or, because it was so close. How close was it? Remind me how close it was.
20 it was like 25 votes, and
25 votes.
actually, I won on election day voters by, like, 50 votes. So, those that showed up on election day, I won. I lost the absentees and the affidavits. That's what I lost, by a larger majority than that. So, about 20 votes. Now, you know, um
I'll say you earned a lot of respect and how classy it was. You conceded and you had a statement out, and a lot of people really respected what you did and how you said it and how you handled that whole situation.
well, I appreciate that, and that's the way I was raised, but it was also in that statement, I said something that I borrowed from George Washington, that we have to teach our children how to say goodbye to things. And, I could have been bitter. I could have had sour grapes. I could have done some other things. But it was important for me, again, to teach our children that when things don't go your way, you have to pick yourself up and, um, and move on. And one of the core principles of our uh, government is that peaceful transfer of power,
Mhm.
and not just to hold on to things. And, there's always other doors that may open.
Interesting that you say that. So, we got a text from you have a question from another representative. Fred Shanks wants to know who is the best representative in the House of Mississippi.
Well, Fred would want to know that. Uh, there's a lot. I have a lot of dear friends in that house, and I count them all blessings. It's amazing how once you serve and that you create this fraternity of people, that you just remain kind of a part of that. It's so true. When we got sworn in 2012, we had former legislators come and say, "Look, you're going to know people from every corner of the state, and you're going to continue to know people from every corner of the
Mhm.
state."
Yeah.
And that's so true. Like people like Fred Shanks and I our lives probably would have never passed, been from the legislature, and he's one of my who I count one of my dearest friends, and a
Yeah.
guy that I love to death. Is he my favorite legislator? We'll see what he does on some of my bills that I'll be lobbying.
I love it, I love it. There you go, Fred, you've been challenged. So, again, back to the way you conceded so gracefully, and I love that you said that you didn't regret any of your votes, like, you voted the way that you felt in your gut was the right thing to do.
That's right.
So, one issue that was a lot of people were upset about was the flag, and, that's just not my hill to die on. I know it is for some people.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned with things that are affecting us daily. But tell me, did you get a lot of hate after the flag vote?
I did. No, absolutely. I mean, uh, I had mail that I received. I had text messages. I had stuff from off of Facebook. If you look on my Twitter page, I have a letter that came in the day after I got defeated, and it says somebody spells congratulations, they spell it wrong, and they call me a puppet. I had all kinds of stuff that people would say horrible stuff to me and my family. Um, and I'd go to parts in my county, people that I've known my whole life, they'd call me a traitor to my race. They would say, um, how could you do this? And for me, it goes back to number one, regardless of regardless of how you see the flag or you saw that flag, there's a large population of our citizens who saw it as a symbol of hate,
Mhm.
who saw it as a symbol of oppression. Now, do I see it that way? Now, for me, it represented home. When I was overseas, I see that it represented home.
Yeah.
The first time I saw it was a young boy, and that I represented Mississippi. But for a large degree of our population, it didn't represent that. Um, you know, I am put on earth, I think, for two reasons, and that is to further the cause of Christ and to serve the people of Mississippi and my family.
Mhm.
Um, that first reason, I cannot hold myself out, and I could not hold myself out as a Christian who embodies the love of Christ and still support something that a large degree of people see as hate.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that. Now people say, "Well, we just wanted to vote on it," and that's fine. I would have been more than happy to give people the right to vote on it, but the bill didn't do that. The bill was an up and down vote. Yes, you want to change. No, you don't want to change. That was it. And for me, the right thing to do was to change that. And I think, Lindsay, you've seen the benefits of that in the last couple of years with a lot of economic growth,
Yeah.
people with a new appreciation. I mean, the new flag we have is everywhere.
Yeah.
It's flying everywhere. And people, a younger generation, they're wearing it on their caps and on their shirts,
Uh-huh.
and a younger generation is very proud of that, and it has gone well. And I've told Speaker Gunn, I, I've thanked him for taking a stand early and taking a lot of those bullets for us for that. So, if my legacy, whatever my legacy is, and if my legacy is that I lost because of that flag, I still sleep very well at night.
I love that. I love that. When you initially were, elected to the House of Representatives, you were you ran as a Democrat, and then you switched parties.
Mhm.
What made that decision for you?
Yeah, well, first off, I ran as a Democrat, and I come from a rural Northeast Mississippi where everybody was a Democrat. That's how everybody voted. We were my BVAP, my black voter age population, was less than 10%. So everybody was white, but they were that old or what I call TVA Democrats, so rural white Democrats. My supervisors were, my sheriff, everybody was. So that's kind of how that manifested itself.
Mhm.
And then it just over the course of the last decade, everybody's kind of turned Republican, and that's been because of the way that the Democratic Party has gone. They've gone so radical.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no room. I mean, look, the perfect example is one of the oldest Democratic supporters in our country, the labor unions have, for the first time, not taken a position, are not favoring a Democratic opponent in this presidential
Right,
election.
I thought that was insane at the
Which
RNC when they showed up and spoke. I was thinking, "This is crazy."
and those labor unions are typically, blue collar workers
Mhm.
who are out there in the factories and doing stuff like that. The people that I grew up around, that my grandparents were. So that's just simply because the Democrats have gotten so uh, radical on their issues, and there's really no place for the middle America is what I call it. So yeah, that and was primarily, and then also, um, I wanted to be involved. I wanted if I hadn't have done that, your library bill, wouldn't have might not have passed.
Oh, you said you were tired of sitting on the
I
sidelines. You were ready to
was.
argue.
I was ready to get started. I was
Yeah.
ready to argue. I was ready to be a part of the solutions for Mississippi. So, um, and also it was also a point in my legislative career where there was opportunities. Some of the veteran Republicans had retired or did not come back, so there was more opportunities.
One thing I've learned by being involved in the legislative process and being at the Capitol is it's not so cut and dry. It's not all black and white. You have to give a little sometimes to get, and I don't think a lot of people don't see that, so it's hard. People wanna hold your feet to the fire and then be so angry with you if you vote on one thing
Right.
that they don't agree with, but what they don't understand is no one's always gonna agree on all the issues.
No, you're exactly right. There's so much nuance in the stuff that we do. Um, for example, I got lambasted last year during the reelection and prior to that because I killed a bill called Buddy's Law, which was about a dog that got burnt. Um, it wasn't about the bill. There was other stuff around it. For first off, the bill wasn't the original version of it wasn't written well. We came back and redid it. Angela Hill and I worked on it, and the bill passed and it's law. But
Mhm.
when I killed the initial bill, there was all kind of articles and hate mail and stuff like that. But I say that that bill died because of other reasons. It was
Yeah.
never going to die. The substance of it was, but there was other reasons to do that. That's what people don't understand. There's so much shades of gray, and there's agendas out there,
Mhm.
and there's also, uh, if you're a legislator and you don't vote a certain way for something, well, you may not get what you want for your
Right.
people back home, or you may not get something for that you think is a good law because you didn't scratch my back. Why should I scratch yours?
Yeah, exactly. You've made some people mad, and now they're not gonna help you with what you're trying to push. Yeah, I understand, and I didn't you don't see that part of it until you are kind of in it,
Right.
and then you're like, "Oh, wait, this is not how I thought that it went."
Look, there's 122 House members. There's 52 Senate members. That's 174 ideas, 100 life experiences, and everybody being pulled in all different directions. So uh, to say there are different shades of gray would be an understatement.
I agree. Tell me what you're working on this coming up legislative session.
Yeah, I'll still be working on criminal justice reform with empowering some things, some simple things with them. Just trying to again give people the ability to earn a living when they leave prison, give them the ability to get an education. We'll be working on some stuff like that, some transitions into society. I'll be lobbying with Mississippi State Medical on probably some issues regarding, I would anticipate, CON stuff. Also, uh, issues that have to do with healthcare and insurance and stuff. And then I'll be working on some other little projects from some counties and stuff that I represent. But uh, for the most part, I'll be doing the same stuff that I've always done. Uh, I won't be voting on it.
We had Cade Yates from AFP on, and we spent the majority of that hour talking about CON laws. So, do you think Mississippi should repeal all of our CON laws?
It's complicated, and again, it's like eating an elephant. There are types of it that maybe types of it that you shouldn't. Um, and this, for example, it does hinder go back into competition. It does hinder competition in an
Mhm.
open and free market and making medication available, healthcare available to certain people. So there are great aspects to it, and then there are some areas I see it. So I'm kind of in the middle of the road on it now. I do believe that there should be some type of whittling away of CON on some issues.
Would that help us in the fight with the Medicaid expansion if we were to repeal some CON laws? Could that I don't even know what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah,
How would that
yeah.
free up some of the Medicaid?
Does that make the Medicaid expansion debate go away? No, I don't think so. But I certainly think providing more health care to Mississippi is never a bad thing.
Yeah, because I guess we are kind of the number one in obesity. I think we're number one in
Right.
um, women who die at giving birth. I think we're number
And
one in
y'all don't
teenage
have the
pregnancy.
issue down here. Y'all don't have the issues down here because you got a hospital on every block, but there are places all over the state where they don't have anything. So, and some of that is, to my knowledge, and I'm no expert on CON like Kay, I know he is. Um, to my knowledge, that creates a lot of issues.
Of course, veterans have to come to the VA, so they only have that one hospital.
Yeah, and like me, my people go to Memphis, go to Tennessee
uh
to the VA because that's closer.
Closer. So, what are your future plans? Give us, if you had a crystal ball, what do
um,
you see yourself doing in the future? Are you
well,
done with elections, or
I will continue to be a father. I'll continue to be a husband and practice law. But if you're asking politically, I will say all I'll say is I have friends all over the state that have asked me that very same question, and who have tried to persuade me into getting back into the game. And I will say that we have put a team together to evaluate what our options are for 2027.
so we may see your name on a ballot in 2027?
All I'll say is I don't think Mississippi's through with me.
Heard it here first, folks. Mississippi is not through with Nick Bain, so that we'll be watching. We'll be definitely interested to see what your plans are, and what that next step wants to, or what it will look like politically, and how that will shape up and affect Mississippi.
Well, I appreciate you having me. Like I said, I love Mississippi. I want to see our state prosper. Um, I love its people, and it's an honor to call myself a Mississippian. Thank you for having me, Lindsay,
Yes,
and hopefully
absolutely,
we'll do it again.
absolutely. And I know you will be at Clay's lunch today. I think he's going to do a live stream, and Clay Edwards, he's doing his remote shows now, and so I think
Yeah.
he's excited that you're going to be there. And he said he didn't know that we were in competition today. He thought you were coming to Madison for his show and his lunch, and I was like, no, I think Nick came for my
we
podcast.
we will blame it all on Fred Shanks.
All on Fred, all
Yeah.
on Fred. Yeah, so you're to blame, Fred Shanks. We got to get him in here. He's got to come on the podcast at some point, and I like to mess with Fred. You know, we're all against banning things, but he got that squatted truck
Yeah.
deal. He
Yeah.
got that done this session, so
Yeah.
that's going to be his claim to fame forever. The squatted truck ban.
Yeah.
So yeah, Fred's a great guy. We love Fred.
He's a
So
dear friend.
yes, so we'll hear real quick from our sponsor for the podcast today, the Yerkeron Law Firm. And he says, do you want a lawyer that will actually show up to court? What about one that will actually read your file? One who knows the discovery, one who knows how to find the discovery on their computer, or one who actually knows something about criminal law? Well, if you're looking for somebody like that, the Yerkeron Law Firm is here to help. Sean Yerkeron has practiced law in Mississippi for 19 years, with over a decade of that as a prosecutor in Hinds County and at the Mississippi Attorney General's office. And he has the experience to handle any situation that you may have gotten yourself into. So call or text him anytime at 601-906-9094, or you can find him at onetextlaw.com or on Facebook. He has a personal page and a law firm page. So just, if you need him and you fought and you don't want to foe, just give Sean a call. And remember that just because you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. So give Sean a call if you need him with any legal help. And then, also we've got Nick Bain. If you're in that part of the state, he is a defense attorney as well. So you still take client, you still have people that you're
Absolutely, every
representing.
day. Yeah.
Great. Well, we wish you all the best of luck, Nick, and thank you so much for being here. I know it's far away from home, but we're so glad to have you and get to spend this time talking with you, learn some more about what you're doing.
Yeah. Again, thanks for having me, and hopefully we can do it again.
Yes, absolutely. When you get ready to announce what you're going to be on the ballot for in 27,
Uh,
you know where to come.
if that time comes, I'll certainly take you up on it.
Great. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching or listening, and we'll see you back next week.